call, please.
Ms. Stone?
Here.
Mr. Pascalakis?
Here.
Mr. Kostabakis?
Here.
Ms. Ramsey? Here. Mr. Lee?
Here.
Ms. Register?
Here.
Mr. Bohan?
Here.
Mr. Chapin? Whoops, sorry. Mr. Phillips?
Here.
Chairman Webster?
Present. All right, do we have a motion with respect to the approval of the minutes from the January 9, 2013 meeting?
So moved.
Any discussion, revisions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, we move on then to public comments. And before we get to that, for one quick second, what I'd like to do is, tonight we have three new members here. It's a fairly short meeting. What I'd kind of like to do is go through, and then near the end, we're going to take a time and introduce and have everybody explain to everybody else your background and everything, so we'll all have some perspective and maybe have a chance to explain what you might hope to do or not do or whatever with respect to your appointment. So we'll get to that a little bit later if we could. What we do is we have public comments at the beginning of the meeting so that if there's an issue out there that we should address, we will then know as we go through the meeting and maybe then deal with it as we go through and such. So do we have any public comments? John?
John Nicholson, 413 North Cranberry Avenue. Matt knows I talk. You two will get used to it. Several things. Budget. I ran out of money, and I couldn't have them printed. Several of you have them. This is the downtown budget. They get a budget. The DDA gets a budget. Midtown gets a budget, but you guys don't get a budget. But I think you all should have one. And this is what it looks like for them, and I think it's something that you guys should at least know how much money you have and where it's going and what's happening. Secondly, some of you have New Smyrna Beach splits their grant money. They give up to $200,000 for a singular grant. You guys give up to $5,000. You have more money than they have, yet they're giving more money. They target. So there were two very wealthy or well-deserved projects coming down the line, and they decided to split the remaining money. I'm asking you to consider that. Several years ago, a gentleman came before you, and his suggestion was that you find out what's of value for Main Street, what kind of businesses would profit on Main Street that would be needed on Main Street, like a deli, a bakery, et cetera, that exists on Bourbon Street, Duval Street, Myrtle Beach, the other successful areas. If they're successful there, you target just those. Find 5 of them that would be successful on Main Street, target those, and see if you can get them to Main Street. I think it's something that you guys should consider. The other one is reefs, if you turn it sideways. Several years ago, a gentleman came to town and suggested having this reef off the coast. It went to the mayor's kitchen cabinet, and I think he even discussed it here, I'm not quite sure. They are tearing down the old hospital on Dunn and Clyde Morris. All that cement could be used to create this reef that would have been done by these big filled bags. At the time, the man was charging $5 million to create this artificial reef. Deneen, I talked to Deneen from the county. They do artificial reefs and have been doing it since the 1980s, but they do them 5, 10, 15 miles offshore. After I talked to him, he's thinking of moving them closer to shore, and he said, fine, we will do this for you. If you want a reef in town, all you got to do is get the city manager to okay it. Well, of course, it's nothing. So I'm asking you to consider this reef, because what a reef would do, it would solidify the sand on the beach. So instead of losing that sand all the way to the seawall during winter, we would keep 400 feet of sand year-round, which is a benefit to the hotels that are going in there. Secondly, the surfers go nuts over the fact that it would create ideal surfing condition. I don't really care about it, but it is a benefit. What I consider the most valuable thing of all of them is it prevents rip currents. We would be the only community on the eastern seaboard that does not have rip currents in our main core area. And I think that, among all the others, is worth it, especially since we get it for free. If we talk to the hospital, I'm sure they want to get rid of that stone. They have to pay to get rid of it. The county loves to get it. They would do it for free for us in this location. And Dave Lamont has all the statistics, what the shape would be, how tall, how wide, et cetera. All that is done. So I'd ask you to consider the reef. It's a golden opportunity. There's so much cement being torn down, it would make the entire reef. Third, it has been almost 5 years, or a little over 5 years, since a project manager. You had a project manager, David Westbury. He's been gone, and in the beginning, we didn't want to replace him because we were watching our pennies. Downtown has Jason Jeffries. He helps them tremendously. He talks to all of the people, gets all the business owners to know what's going on. We don't have that. It's something that we should have. Downtown has it. Midtown has it. They have way less money than we do, and yet they are affording it. Plus, I think some of your money goes to support them as well. And lastly, I'm asking you to consider a half-penny sales tax, much like the Pavilion has. The Pavilion has a half-penny sales tax that goes back to the infrastructure and whatnot. If we could do that for our CRA area alone, I looked at the zoning. It can be done where almost no resident pays any sales tax. Because most of the stuff on A1A, sorry, Dino, a lot of locals don't go into your gift shop. Timmy, they don't go into a lot of these areas, sorry about that, you look alike. But if we can, because of the zoning, Bel Air Plaza would be exempt because of its zoning. So it would hit all the hotels, which most of us don't use, a lot of the gift stops, and the bars. The bars would, on Main Street would be the only local areas that would be taxed. And I think this would be a fantastic way to get money to put all our infrastructure underground, redo all of our water and sewer, all of our sidewalks, all of our streets, all of our landscaping, all could be paid from a $500,000 sales tax. It would only generate about $5 million a year, $6 million at most. You realize that we get only a fraction of our sales tax back in the city of Daytona Beach. We lose about $95 million a year to Tallahassee. We only get about $4 million. This alone would create more money than we get back from all of our sales tax in our entire city. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
I have a question. John? May I ask a question? No, it's on now. The question is about the reefs. I have two questions. I understood that the county actually operates the beaches, not the city of Daytona. So would they not themselves make the decision on whether there was to be an artificial reef placed offshore?
Okay, but they would ask the city. And if you all would request it of Jim Chisholm and the city commission, then they would talk to Deneen, and Deneen is more than amenable to doing it.
I'm still confused. If
Okay.
they are the people, they are the
But they won't
department,
do it if the city refuses to have it there.
even though they're the ones that's in charge of the beaches.
Correct.
Is that
They would
correct,
ask
Carrie?
permission.
There is a jurisdiction on the beach, which is the counties, to regulate what happens on the beach.
All right.
Okay, that's one. Number two, there is obviously the water itself and what happens in the water. Now, that's not the county, it's not the city, it's the state.
It's the state.
Yes. And so, but let me just drive the point home that in your E-zone master plan, we have in there the artificial reef. So I'm in agreement with what Mr. Nichols is saying. And the thing is that we have to look at how that's going to be implemented. It doesn't say it's going to be a first phase or whatever it's going to be, but this is perhaps an opportunity. And I'll pass it along if you have not already to the manager's office.
Already did.
Okay. But I think that certainly we've looked at it before. And we're aware of Mr. Lamont's information, and I think that we're clearly interested, particularly if there is a low-cost version of getting this done and done right.
And I believe I heard Jim Deneen on the radio a week or so ago talking about the reefs and doing one in close here and supporting the concept of doing that. So I think maybe it could be appropriate that we would take a motion to pass a consensus that we would support an artificial reef near shore off Daytona Beach. And so, I'd like to ask the members to consider that tonight. So,
And plus, I think it's in the city of Daytona Beach city limits. I think our city limits go out so far,
It's still
in all the
state
maps.
land, though, once you hit the water.
Correct.
The
but
mean
it's-
high tide.
But that's why they would ask us, because it's within the city limits of Daytona Beach.
And I'm way out of my element on this one, but I read an article just this week, I think, in the newspaper that about artificial reefs, and the concern was because the fishermen were throwing their fish when they were cleaning them in the reefs, that they were drawing a lot of sharks. So, does anybody know anything about that? Is that something we should be concerned
Not
about?
an issue. I fish offshore, so
It's, yeah, it's
trust me, there's enough out there to eat up anything that gets, and they don't throw the cleaning, they don't even clean them offshore usually. You're not allowed to clean the fish offshore. You're not supposed to clean your fish until you're inshore and
correct.
at the dock.
No, I understand that, but the newspaper said that they were doing it and they were drawing sharks. But like I said,
Well, it draws sharks off the pier also, okay, but it doesn't affect the surfers. The shark bites are basically New Smyrna Beach, because that's where they breed, and it's the inlet and all the foliage and whatnot that comes up from the ground that they eat. So the little fish eat the bigger fish, eat the shark, and the whole 9 yards.
Okay, thank
We don't
you.
have that.
And my understanding of what they're proposed here is a reef that's really going to be primarily orchestrated towards something you swim out to or paddleboard out to and such. It's not going to be a big fishing reef. It's more of a snorkeling type reef condition they're looking to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because of the shape, if they put the correct shape, we will gain about 400 permanent feet of beach year-round. And the surfers, because of the way it's shaped, it will help the surfers with their ability to surf.
So,
So there are a lot of benefits to
all
it.
right.
thank you, John.
Okay, any other public? We'll move on then to item number 5, DEV 2012-139, conditional use, 601 Main Street, Tower Bar and Grill. You going to give a word on that, Reed, or we going to? Yes.
I missed that one on my checklist. Okay. Thank you. We have the applicant here for the Tower Bar and Grill. Some of you have seen them here before last year when they came in and tried to open up before New Year's, and they were not able to, unfortunately, accomplish that. It was quite a optimistic goal, I think, on everyone's part to try to get there. It just didn't happen. But they're out there. They're working it every day. And I think at least the reports I'm getting is they're trying to work on the restaurant side, which is something that we were hoping we would start to see. Now they're asking for the second part they did not have time to do last time because they were in a rush, and that is to have the outside table service. And there's some maps in here that show the areas that are outside. They're actually on balconies and under the balcony. Excuse me. And so what we're essentially doing is just approving the use of those areas for the alcohol, and this is something that previously was done by the prior operators of this building. So it's nothing new in terms of the activity and what's happened out there. So if you have any questions, be happy to answer them, and the applicants are here to answer your question as well.
The applicant have any comments? State your name and address, please.
My name is Keith Carlisle, 601 Main Street, Tower Bar and Grill.
Okay, and you got Mr. Dodani beside you?
Yes, sir, I do.
And the owner, so these guys are basically doing same thing what the other owner was doing, and they've done a great job. And everything is nice and clean, the food is amazing, and they are here to stay forever and ever. God willing.
Yes, sir.
Well, we would hope so.
Yes, sir.
Basically, you're just asking to have outside service in the balcony and the covered area?
Yes, sir.
Do I understand?
Yes, sir.
As the prior occupants did there?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Outside food and beverage, yes, sir.
All right. And this is a two-story, right in the middle of Main Street area. What was it called before, Archie?
Doghouse.
The Doghouse, yes,
Yeah,
okay.
Bar and grill.
All right. And originally, it was also associated with a large parcel beside it, but due to foreclosures or whatever, they've lost the large parcel beside it, and it's just the two-story portion. Do any board members have any questions? Any comments, any discussion? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I move approval.
Second? We have a second? Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Sorry.
Passes unanimously. Congratulations on getting open.
Thank you, man. God bless you.
If I could, when you were up before, it was indicated it was going to be a family-style
Yes.
restaurant slash pub environment.
Yes, sir.
I've been by twice when you were open. I saw a great set of nachos sitting there with one lady with a set of nachos. But the music was so loud, there's no way I'd be going in with my family and such to go eat. So just a heads up on it. It was just too loud to go in and be able to even talk back and forth, so.
We did have an issue with, the jukebox was turning up on its own the way it was programmed.
Okay,
So, that was probably, that's where it was coming from.
oh, that might have been, then there was a band thing going on Sunday with a guy out there playing in a rather loud, I could hear it a block away, and and he's playing in an area smaller than this, and so I was
okay.
like, okay, but just,
Yes, sir, I understand.
if you want to get the families and such, and you want to be drawing off the beaches and the hotels, so you're year-round,
And that's our goal, yes, sir.
okay, sounds good, go at it then, thank you.
Thank you, sir, appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, our next item, number 6, DEV 2013-016, conditional use, 821 Main Street Pub and Grill.
All right, well, I'll start this off by saying that the Main Street Cafe is missed by some of us that went out for breakfast. And we could always count on a pretty consistent eggs and bacon. And so I'm happy to say that another restaurant entrepreneur that is in our community who runs a place called Rossellini's. I don't know if you say ristorante, but an Italian restaurant that if you haven't been there, you've really been missing something because it's a great place. And I rarely get out there, but I love the atmosphere right up there on A1A and just to the south of Main Street. I mean, it's just a block and a half away. You're there. So we have the applicant here who now wants to try his hand on Main Street with a beer and wine liquor license and providing a restaurant for the lunch and dinner. And there's a menu in here.
No breakfast?
Is there going to be a breakfast? Okay. I'll let the applicant speak to that, but I know that we talked about dinner and lunch, and the point is, from this point forward, what our job is to do is to make sure that all of the points that are listed in the memorandum are covered, and I think staff has looked at it, talked over this with the applicant. I believe the applicant's going to meet all of the conditions that are in here. And I won't go through each of them, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those questions about the criteria. Usually what you have seen, and we've had several of these bars, you are looking at the section that's in Article 12, our redevelopment section. This one is, there's two options of how you can do this. This one is in Article 17. It's a different section, so it's got a little different criteria. So I just want to point that out to you. The last thing is I did not include like a specific graphic to show anything with entertainment because that's not the goal here, is entertainment. This is all about people sitting down and having a meal and ordering a beer or wine with their meal. So with that, I'd like to turn it over back to the chair. If you have any questions of me or the applicant, we're here.
And what we're looking at here is simply a conditional use to allow the restaurant with the alcohol usage, correct?
That is correct. There will in the future, and that's a good segue to the fact that we will likely be seeing the applicant come back at a later date to get an outdoor table service, but that can't happen until we get a sidewalk cafe license, and that requires going before not only you, but the city commission will have to do this in steps.
Okay, because the Main Street Grill did have a little bit of outside table, just a few, but it was kind of nice
But
and such. And I think that's good for the ambience down there to try to get some of that in there. So would like to see them come back with that, so. Okay. Quick question. Is there a preference whether they go under the Article 12 or the Article 17?
That's an option of the applicant.
Okay, do we,
17.
are they going under 17 is their choice?
Yes, they are, and
Okay, I'm
I
sorry.
list that in the memorandum further down.
Okay.
As to those criteria. Some of them don't really apply. They apply to hotels.
Okay. We have the applicant here. I really think it's self-explanatory unless any board member has any questions or.
I have
for
a
the
question.
applicant. Okay. If you would step forward, please, and state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Paolo Montone, 821 Main Street,
I-
Pub and Grill.
I've been to your restaurant, Rosalini's. Wonderful. I just enjoy lunch there so much. Your servers are so much, they're so friendly and so nice, and the food is wonderful. Here's what I would like to know. When you enter your new establishment there, will the decor and the atmosphere be more of a diner, or will it be more of a tavern?
It will be a tavern.
It will be a tavern.
Yes, ma'am.
And how does that make a person that's going in for bacon and eggs and breakfast? It seems a little incongruous to me.
Say again?
It seems a little not a right kind of match as far as the decor and design of the space. I don't think I would go to a tavern to have breakfast. Are you going to have? I understand you're going to have breakfast. Yes.
I have to say the tavern, probably, I see what you're saying. However, I think the restaurant is multiple, not only one idea. You can pretty much match, and as long as it fits in. It's not a diner anymore. Has a nice wood floor and wood booths and bricks on the wall and beautiful lamps. And has a really character, I should say. And because of that, I like to be open for dinner, even if it's going to be easy food, steaks, burger, and so on. And I believe one menu could do it all. I could open at 6 o'clock and provide breakfast for Main Street.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
I have one question here. So it says that staff recommends approval provided that the applicant complete exterior facade improvements in accordance with RDB redevelopment design guidelines. Are you planning to complete the facade improvements that the staff has recommended?
Yes, sir. I didn't touch the outside. The outside you're talking about? Mm-hmm. I didn't touch the outside yet. I don't have any specifics on it. I'll wait for the proper suggestion, and I will go along with it.
Right. I think we're talking about awnings, and you can see there's a facade drawing in there that shows the layout of the doors and the window, which are changing.
Yes, new.
What you see. And I think with that arrangement and the awning over the top, you can see there's a sign on there. I think we're there in terms of the basics. We just have to make sure the material of the awning and everything else, when we go through those permitting processes, that all catches up and follows those standards. But I'm sure that the applicant will do it because we'll be watching him.
That brings up a second question then for me. Does he have to come back before the board after those exterior facade improvements are done to get our final approval?
No.
So it's an agreement between staff and the owner that he's going to do so. And if he does not do so, then the city of Daytona would take care of that.
There's code enforcement
I
and
gotcha.
other ways. But I think if you look around, every time that there's improvements on facades, that's coming through administratively through our office.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to say that Main Street needs to be rejuvenated a little bit, not a lot. So I believe I will start the trend.
Excellent.
Like to hear it. Any other questions or comments? Do we have a motion with respect to the application
Move for approval.
in accordance with the staff recommendations
Yes.
and conditions? Do we have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public comment? Usually these kinds of things are allowed public.
John, come on real quick.
John Nicholson, 413 North Cranberry Avenue. As in the past, the topic of food on Main Street and restaurants serving food, when you pass this, it's grandfathered in, correct, Carrie? If he leaves, the alcohol license stays with the premises.
Well, this is a conditional use, so,
Correct.
I
It
mean,
would then-
whoever, as long as they're meeting conditions.
Will be staying. So you are creating another bar on Main Street. Rossellini's is not a bar. We understand that. But you do know that you went up to 5 restaurants on Main Street, restaurants that do not serve food. All right? This was a restaurant 365 days a year that served food. Now you're taking away another restaurant and turning it into a bar. I want you to be aware of that, even though Reed is sitting there saying all these wonderful things. You are creating, in essence, a street with no food. You will have 2 restaurants on the entire street if you don't watch it. Now, the tower is saying it's going to serve food, but there's no guarantee they will stay. There may be a new owner. Remember, there's been 5 already. The same thing happened to Wise Guys. Remember, they went to no serving food. Be careful when you grant these things. If you can do 51% food, I would ask you to do that to guarantee that we will eventually have some food on Main Street.
Thank you, John.
I have a comment, John. They're only asking, if I read this correctly, for beer and wine. So I'm very comfortable with that,
beer
that
and wine.
it's a restaurant, not a bar. They're not serving hard liquor here.
And not only
Yeah.
that, they're only allowed to be selling alcohol if the kitchen is open. And I'll be honest with you, just knowing that area and knowing that place, I believe that it's going to be more of a, they're going to sell more food than alcohol. You
Well,
know?
if it's beer and wine, yes.
It
But
is.
Yeah, okay. The others were beer and wine as well and changed. Remember, Boot Hill is beer and wine, correct? Boot Hill was beer and wine for, you would know. How many years was Boot Hill? 30 years? It's now hard liquor and no alcohol. Froggy's, no food.
I think Rosa,
Those are always bars, and we're not taking away
But
we're not taking
Froggy's-
away a restaurant. That was
But
a
Froggy's was not a bar. Froggy's has always been a restaurant.
What
well,
we're
it's had
doing
a
is
restaurant
eliminating,
license.
we're eliminating an empty store.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. All right. All opposed to the motion? None? Passes unanimously. What John's concern is, and it's a legitimate concern, is that there used to be a requirement in the code for the conditional use that they serve 50% food with respect to their service. It ties into the liquor license that requires 50% food. The problem is, apparently, some facilities which get the license that authorize or require 50% food don't in fact serve 50% food, is his concern, and wants to make sure that we do have food. This, to me, looks truly like a restaurant that will serve beer and wine. Certainly the layout is such, far more than some others along Main Street, which questionably, there are questions whether they do serve the adequate amount of food, but that's not that's not really our job. So that's passed. You're approved. Thank you very much. Next is special events. what you have here, this is something we have actually had been working on for over a year. I think it was December, we had it up, and Teresa had to leave early, and we chose not to vote on it because Teresa couldn't be here to discuss it during the discussion. So, and I'm not so sure we want to vote on this tonight, but let me just give you, especially the new members, some background. What's been provided is some suggestions to the master plan guidelines, and I'm not sure if you even understand what those are at this point, but they're the guidelines that they use to approve Bike Week and a few other special events. And there are some issues with respect to those guidelines which I believe we're lacking, and a good number of the board members believe we're lacking. We were trying to hone down and look at what needed to be revised on those. And I'd come up with this list, and I've actually tweaked it since our last meeting, and also added a provision dealing with the master plan applications to require scale drawings and dimensions, because there was a big issue recently with respect to an alleged violation and whether or not there was measurements and things of that nature. So was proposing to make a revision to the master plan guidelines to deal with what some of the issues were. And I'm not sure whether there would be any consensus to continue with this at this point. We have Bike Week around the corner. What I would like to perhaps encourage, unless there were some consensus to go otherwise, is use this as something to look at now, and then take a look at how Bike Week goes. And strongly encourage, especially our newer members, to go down to Main Street during Bike Week and spend some time. Go down during the daytime at least once. Go down once in the evening, like at a peak period on a Saturday evening, and then go down and stay till well after midnight. So you get a real perspective as to what's going on at all hours, so you can understand and see where some of these issues may or may not be coming from, to see if you would agree or disagree. Because I'm not sure how much time many of you all have actually spent down there during these kind of events and been involved in them. I live just right there, and so I've been there for 15 years, and I've lived up on Grandview before that, so I've been out there almost 30 years. But that's my thought process, is because nothing's going to happen dramatic with respect to the next few months on this. But we got Bike Week coming up next month. And I think it's important to actually go down, look at the stages, see how they're setting up for some of these bands. How we have one facility that sets up 2 bands on one piece of property. And how you get, to me, what is too much noise in a little area where you have bands actually competing against each other, even within the same property, playing at the same time. And how I don't think that's necessarily conducive to a positive environment for even on Main Street. So some thoughts on that, and dealing with tents, porta-johns, whether there's some that don't even provide porta-johns down there, and I think they should be required to provide porta-johns. How to deal with the amplified sound, and some suggestions on providing some muffling with respect to the back sides of the speakers, placement of the speakers. One of them puts speakers up in the air 16, 20 feet. And then they blast through the neighborhoods, and there are complaints, as far as a few miles away with respect to some of them. Some of them there's no problems, and some of them there are problems. And there are things they can do with those speakers, like I believe Teresa's operations, a week or so ago, or a few weeks ago, when was it? New Year's. About 6 o'clock, Boot Hill kicks in, and clear as a bell. I'm 2 blocks away, and I'm hearing every word. Wander down there, go in, see Karen, who's the owner, explain what's going on. She gets a hold of her tech guy. He goes out, oh, okay, he tweaks the compression on the speakers. And that made a huge difference. Didn't make any real difference to what they heard or what was going on site there, but it changed how far the sound was being carried tremendously. So there's things that can be done if they deal with it right, that allow for the neighborhoods to have a quality of life that some of them disregard. So some of these issues are trying to deal with some of those things. But, so my thought process is, and that leads into, Reed had mentioned that next month, our meeting is supposed to be in the middle of Bike Week. I'm not so sure that's best. I know that's a problem for Teresa.
What if we have it on Main Street?
Well,
And Reed gets the town.
the, Reed, you had suggested possibly moving it maybe to the week after. Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, if we could poll the board, we don't have to get all the answers now, but if no one knows of any critical issues on their schedules, we would poll the board for about a week after, see if we can do it. We have a commission meeting on the Wednesday night, but we could find another time that might work.
Okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with moving it to the week after Bike Week and avoiding any complications associated with that. And that also would certainly give everybody an opportunity to go out there and spend some time and see what's going on. In that regards, if there's anybody that parking gets to be a bit of a premium, and if you're going down for just a short period of time, I have a driveway that's rather large and lots of parking in the back. So if somebody wants to park, I think you can call me and ask me permission to do that, and I will tell you how to do that. And I don't think that violates any sunshine law issues.
Also come visit me.
What's that?
I got a large parking lot just about a block and a half up.
Okay, very good. Yeah, either way, something like that. So you have a place to park and get out and go see it without having to go fight and pay $10 for a parking space for a short period of time, especially if you're going down on a peak period.
Now, these Bike Week suggestions have come before this board, probably 3 or 4 different times. Should we have a workshop, and I'm not talking about before, obviously not before, but should we just set up a workshop and then let's address it? And so, I mean, you're going through a lot of effort, and I like a lot of these suggestions, but I mean, we should probably start passing them.
I agree, but I don't want to do it with new members in,
Well, I know,
especially without a
that's
chance.
why it
But
gives them a chance.
a workshop, we thought about a workshop last fall sometime. Workshop never materialized. It's more staff, more involvement. I think we'll just deal with it at a meeting and, see what gets recommended to go forward to the commission or not. And, deal with it.
So you want to
We'll deal with it at a meeting after Bike Week.
Okay, an item on the agenda, maybe not in the March meeting, but maybe in the April meeting?
I think that'd be good.
Okay.
And then, so with it, sections 1 and 2 are replacements, but everything from tents below is something that is being added?
Yes, yeah. And what we're gonna need to do too, Reed, is get them the guidelines
As to what they are?
as to what they currently are. Because one of the issues is contiguous, because they have a contorted definition of contiguous, which I don't believe that it's as big an issue now as it used to be, and it's probably a good time because of foreclosures and so many things have died out there, that people who were taking advantage of this contiguous definition aren't at this point, so maybe it is a good time to deal with that. And same with the concept of the tents. I personally like the idea of having some of the tent vendors and the color and such, the character they can bring to an event like this. But what you've gotten, if you look at those big empty parcels that turned into tent cities, where it's more productive and profitable for people to maintain vacant land than it is to build a building. And so we're trying to reverse that course, and now's actually a good time, I think, to be doing that too, because of the separation of the parcels from foreclosures and things. Trying to get down to where we have a manageable amount of tents, where we have some character and color with the event, but not have it dominated into the point where nobody wants to build a building.
If we're going to have a meeting, let's say in April, and since you'd be reissuing the guidelines for us to have and everything like that, would it be possible to have staff take some of these suggestions that, and kind of like, where they cross out, the current code and add in red, your suggestions, so that way we could actually see how it is affecting the code, and then how, and then we could say we don't like this part, but we like this part. Just having a comparison of the old and the new, with the suggestions incorporated.
Dino, there's only 2 little sections here that deal with the existing code that calling for revision. All the others are new thoughts.
Okay, all right.
So I don't think that's that big a
would
deal.
be- Okay, so-
Yeah.
okay, then that's fine.
But if there's, no objection to that approach, I think that would be constructive, and if we kind of work towards that, Reed. Okay?
I have a comment.
Yes, Suzanne.
I think since the new people are here, I think it should be pointed out that I know myself personally and some other members of the board are not in full agreement with the chairman. And so this is not something that we are all, the majority, in favor of doing any or all of these. And I think it's important that you should know that.
That's fair. Okay. All right, and then, Reed, do you want to do your redevelopment projects update, and then we'll kind of go do some introductions so everybody understands everybody's
Sure.
background and such?
Yeah, it's been a pretty busy time for us. We've gotten back on track with the consultant that's doing the ISB streetscape design from the river to A1A. So we do have a plan for March or April. No promises yet on the exact date, but as soon as I know, we'll get it to you. But we'll have a coming out of this project that we started, I think, 3 years ago. So from the vision to where we are now, hopefully we can push it along further, identify the funding, do some things, perhaps even similar to what happened on Orange Avenue. That project, the Orange Avenue improvements, is moving along. In fact, we'll have a meeting coming up very soon here on that particular project for the public. There is also a wayfinding workshop that will be provided on the 21st. I believe that's in this room, and that will be at 7 p.m. So you might want to calendar that. That will be all the signage that goes from 95 to the beach, getting people there, and everything in between that we need to do to identify the public parking, the theme, all of it. So this is going to be the consultant's first opportunity to engage with the public.
What was that date again?
That is on the 21st, so it's coming up very quickly. And, excuse me, that's a Thursday, 7 o'clock p.m. in the chambers. Okay. Proto Group Hotel that you saw in January, the planning board approved that as well. I think they listened to the issues that you had, and they have asked for that, the issues of traffic management plan to be addressed. I think the other issue that dealt with the side yard setback did not really go forward. That issue sort of died right there at planning board. It was an issue, but certainly can be brought up again at the commission meeting. And March 6th is the first reading, and then we'll have the public hearing on the 20th of March. And so this is a pretty big deal, as you know. And so you may want to come out to that particular meeting, especially the second meeting, where a major decision will be made about the beach side with this project. The county, you may have read in the news, is reviewing the CRAs. Again, it's a workshop situation right now, but they certainly got our attention, the 15 CRAs in Volusia County, and there are desires to reform and change CRAs, and so we're watching it very carefully. We're obviously have a lot of indebtedness in Main Street. That is something that would be a significant challenge if anybody tried to undo a CRA at this point. But we're concerned about reduced revenues, and there is a movement to at least look at taking some of the districts out. It's not only the county, but you have the hospitals in there. You have the special parts of the county districts in there that include Echo and Forever on the tax revenue that we get as an increment. So anyway, that's keeping us on our toes. The county tourism study, I went to that last week. That was a real good start to a draft that was presented out there, but it's a draft. This is really an opportunity for you. You have it in your packet. I think I included it. To send your comments back directly to the county on any questions or concerns that you have about the study. And they will take that information, and it's their intent to continue to incorporate it. It's not done. The Volusia County bed tax, I just added some background information for you on some things that are happening currently. The Sunoco, you saw that, gosh, last summer, I think, or that time period. And they have been having neighborhood meetings. They are ready to come back. So it's going through some staff review right now, and you should see it back in front of you fairly soon. The Land Development Code update is, it's just been sitting around for a while. You haven't heard me talk about the E-zone plan, the regulations, but this is going to start ramping up very quickly. The new commission is in place. There's an interest to start to do something in a significant way to change what we do. Streamlining is very important. I sat in their strategic plan meeting, and I think they're all very interested, very positive about business and making it easier for people to do business in this community, and for City Hall to be very responsive to making things happen. And whatever change we need to have it. So that's why you'll start to see some changes with that Land Development Code. And John Nicholson had made some comments about the reef. I think you got the answer on that. Let's see, I had another note on here about the budget and the grants. I just want to tell you that the grants, especially for someone that's new here and hasn't seen what we've gone through, but we have a whole series of different types of grants, and they're a mix and match. So we are able to, and this happens more in downtown than it does on Main Street, in terms of interest and demand for opening new businesses. But you will see that to the tune of $20,000, $17,000, where people are mixing and matching these grants, they're eligible to do a lot more. So and they are also targeted. So we've changed the way we do our grant administration, and it is very targeted, and it's based on marketing. Main Street has a deficiency in that it hasn't had that retail study in some time. And so since we had a ULI study that touched on some of that, we haven't really gone deeply into what are we doing next with the E-zone. But that's really an important part of it, is to look at how we can target better. But right now, there is targeting for tourism and for restaurants on Main Street. So some of the people you saw tonight, there is eligibility for them to put up awnings and signs and do other things.
Is there any funding currently for that? I know there was an issue on that.
There's a waiting list on that, but if let's say a major project comes along, there's an opportunity. I'll give Zappatelli's on Beach Street as an example. We went to the commission and asked for a special appropriation for tax increment funds to make that happen, using the grant eligibility as the foundation for how to determine that they could do that. But they were able to package together a total of about $85,000 of subsidy in there. And from what I can see right now, they're quite successful. But even Tia Corey's, the yogurt shop, they all benefited. It wasn't just the $5,000. So I think we're making, you know, some progress in that area. And then I also want to say that we haven't replaced the project manager for Main Street in some time, and I know it defaults to me. And sometimes I have other staff that's out there, and I want everyone to understand how we do business here. We assign our time on time cards by where we are in each of the 5 CRAs. We have to know during the day what we're doing and what we're working on, and that gets split among those CRAs. So we do carefully track that time, and if someone, other staff member, is getting paid out of, say, a Main Street fund, it's because they were working for the Main Street area, for the South Atlantic area. So just FYI.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Reed.
Thank you.
With respect to the reef issue, is there a consensus that we would recommend to the City Commission that they encourage the establishment of an inshore artificial reef off the beach here in Daytona? Do we want a discussion on that, or any thoughts on that?
With the master plan, what was the reef material supposed to be? Was there anything that was presented with that, or was it just an overall
It was
reef?
conceptual.
It was all conceptual.
And any of the way the county does it, they have their engineers and they design, and they have to meet all the state guidelines and things like that. So I don't think we have to get into the whole
Sure.
nitty-gritty details of it. Just the concept of having some offshore reefs close in that can be snorkeled or paddle boarded out to and such, and appreciated from that perspective. You know, if the county's willing to pay the dollars to do it, and it's going to help give something to draw tourists here, I think it's a win-win. So, Tim?
I think it'd be good if we had someone, you know, be it, you know, Dave Lamont or somebody who has a little bit more insight on it that could come and
Come
maybe
talk to us? Okay.
Come talk to us and give a little presentation on what the expectations and what, you know, it can't all be good with it. There's got to be some bad with it.
Okay.
You know, and get an idea where we're going, you know, have a little bit better picture of it.
Reed, do you think we can get Dave for our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. We'll do that then.
Well,
all right.
If he's around, I'm sure he'd love to talk to you about it.
All right, what I'd like to do now is have all board members introduce themselves.
Before we do that, should we
Sure.
go ahead and discuss, are we going to for sure change the meeting date next month, or?
Well, I think Reed was going to poll and see what date would work best.
Oh, I thought polling us
No,
while
I
we're
think he was
here.
talking about after the fact when we can check our we can check our calendars and
Okay,
stuff.
and we still have that temporary meeting, okay, we don't have that other meeting anymore? Okay.
We were trying to schedule a special meeting for next week, I think, or so,
Okay.
that fell through, so. Well, let's start with myself. I live at 21 North Halifax, which is just north of Main Street there, in what is the Peabody House. Simon Peabody of Peabody Auditorium, historic home there. Been there for 15-plus years, I think, or so. I've raised 3 kids. My youngest one is a senior at Lopez. I'm an attorney, and just like to be involved in trying to do what we can to get that Main Street area redeveloped and into a year-round thriving location. And been on the board here now for about 2 years. So, Teresa, why don't we just go around this way?
I've been on the board about a year and a half. I have some businesses on Main Street, and I work with the Merchants Association on the street. And I'm very interested in anything we can do to improve Main Street and the entire redevelopment area. So I think it all becomes self-activating. If the more development that goes in, the more the taxes result, and the whole thing becomes sort of self-activating. But I'm not sure we've reached escape velocity just yet. So.
Dustin?
So I'm Dustin Leak. I'm an IT guy, IT leadership. A lot of the same reasons that you've heard already mentioned are the same reasons that I'm here. It's just I feel like it's a good opportunity to provide input, good platform to provide input, and without just sitting and complaining to my neighbor. So that's it.
And are you on the board as a result of
Oh.
residency or business, or how's that tie in?
All these details. So, so I'm on the board as a result of residency. I live in just being a Daytona Beach resident. I've been on the board about a little over a year now, I guess. Yeah.
Suzanne?
I'm Suzanne Ramsey, and I'm the design advisor on the board, but it's also a voting seat. Whether that's a good, whether everybody agrees that's a good idea or not. And I live 1 block south of Main Street on Oleander. I renovated a house there, and I'm very, very concerned and interested and involved in trying to get the neighborhood around Main Street upgraded and renovated.
Thank you. Tim?
Tim Kostadakis. My family's been in business in the Main Street, South Atlantic area for, I guess, 41 years now. I operate a gift shop, and we also still have rental properties in both of the redevelopment areas. The one thing I want to say is that we talk a lot about Main Street, but the redevelopment area is A1A and it's Main Street. So I think we need to get out of that mindset when we say Main Street redevelopment area, that there's an entire area to that, from Oak Ridge all the way down to Silver Beach, and just to take that all into account also. So.
Matt?
My name is Matt Bohan. I represent the planning board. I've been on the planning board for about a little over 2 years. I live in Daytona. I live off River Dunes, which is south on Peninsula. Originally from Texas, hence the accent. But I think I'm glad to be on this board. I can sit here and tell you that they made me do it. I showed up late to a planning board, and they made me do it. But that's not the case. I'm glad to be on this board. I think that area has a lot of potential, and I think you get some creative minds together and people with just the will to do something good and productive, and we can come up with something. We can really, really rejuvenate that area. So I'm glad to be here.
Dino?
My name is Dino Pasplack. My family's run businesses on the boardwalk since the 60s. And from the 90s, I've been fighting the city of Daytona, and now I'm joining the city of Daytona. No. Obviously, I like to see a lot of things happen in that area. I'm also in charge of like the street performers that you see on the boardwalk, jugglers and what have you. And that's about it.
Oh, and your involvement with the band show.
Oh, yeah, I don't, okay, and then I'm also involved with the band show and trying to get the concert series and the fireworks and all that.
Very good. Thanks,
Trying
Dino.
to put a smile on your face on Saturday nights.
Carrie?
Hi, I'm Carrie Register. I live at 208 Wall Street, so I am a downtown resident. I am on the board because of my downtown residency, and I'm very excited to be here. I grew up in Daytona, so I've lived here, I don't want to give away my age, but over 30 years now. Grew up here in Port Orange, and I'm excited to be back in Daytona. Think that it has a lot of potential, but definitely want to see more businesses here, more young professionals, but still keeping kind of the things that have made Daytona Daytona. So excited to be on the board, excited to contribute, and excited to work with you all.
Randy?
Randall Phillips. I'm a lifelong resident, born in 1976. Not afraid. Graduate of Mainland High School. Spent abroad in education with IT and also business. Moved back here probably about 2001. Took over the establishment at 612 East International Speedway, which is Tiernanog Irish Pub, formerly O'Malley's, formerly Robbie's, and a few other names. I just kind of talked to a few of my friends. I know Kelly White and a few other commissioners, and every time I talk to them when they come by the establishment, and they pretty much said, why don't you apply for the board here? So I did. Here I am. One of my reasons I'm coming here is I'm probably the only representative from International Speedway, just like what you're saying. You hear Main Street, you hear South Atlantic, but you don't hear the people on International Speedway. So believe it or not, there are businesses left on that street, and it looks a little bleak, but hopefully I can change that with your guys' helps.
Good. I'm really encouraged. I think we've got some fresh blood, well diversified, a lot of perspectives. Hopefully we can form some consensuses, and then, and just, we get these small things coming in, but I think we can do a lot more than that. I think we're working on trying to get some parking with the Ocean Center opened up, but we're working on some things like that. And it's involved going out and connecting with our commissioners and our county council and state if necessary and such, and doing some networking. And so it's more than just sitting here approving, conditional uses and things like that. We've got to spread the word. We've got to be ambassadors for the whole area. Keep us ISB all the way to Oak Ridge. It's not just Main Street. We refer to that, I think, generically, but Main Street is in the middle and has serious issues. ISB has serious issues. A1A has issues, but we see some things are really moving out ISB towards the Speedway. Things are really finally turned around out there. More, and you see it all the time. And so maybe we can get some of that moving out this way, because I think the potential is here. When you look around the state of Florida, I think we have the lowest property values beachside than anywhere else in the state. And there's nowhere beachside in the state that is as depressed and as what we have here. So we can only go up, I hope. So let's hope we get going in the right direction, and with everybody working together, we can make something happen out there. So that's my hope and goal anyways. And that's my board comment. Do we have any other board comments anyone would like to make before we adjourn? Suzanne's always ready to go here.
With all these new restaurants on Main Street, are we getting close to the time where the board may think that we could really benefit from a marketing person on our board, such as Jason is with the Beach Street? I mean, it would seem to me that we need all the help we can get along those lines. I know Jason's done a lot of successful things for Beach Street. How does everybody feel about that? I don't know how old board members feel about that, and of course the new ones, I don't know if they know about that.
I don't mean to sound negative in this comment, but marketing would be awesome, but most establishments in our area don't look like they're the most prettiest, and would you want to market that to the people?
Yeah, you need to establish first an environment, is my perspective, that will cause someone to want to be there. And that's part of what I think we have to help create, and getting some restaurants that may actually serve decent food and stay there more than 6 months, would be an extremely positive thing. Get somebody coming down off of A1A, because you need something there that's going to want to draw others, and that's part of why I think these guidelines and such, making this area what I call E-zone compliant. And if you all don't have the copy of the E-zone plan, Reed will get you a copy, I'm sure, and go through and get the idea of we're trying to make this an entertainment zone, an active lifestyle zone, somewhere that we would want to go have dinner, go have a drink, go spend some time. Right now, how many of us actually go down to Main Street and do anything? Okay? But not a lot of people, locals, do and such, and we certainly aren't getting them off the tourist end. You watch them walk down Main Street, and they get about a block, and they turn around and they go back. We need to get them coming down, and to do that, we need to have restaurants and stores and such that they're going to want to visit. So we need to get that in there. So, but what you're saying, Suzanne, is why don't we have our own person? Well, really, Reed is our person, okay? And he delegates and such. At some point, maybe there will be a person who's dedicated to that, and maybe we need to look towards that. but I think we have a long ways to go, too. So.
I don't think that's correct, but correct me if I'm wrong. You don't do the functions that Jason does for Beach Street for our board, do you?
Well, we've got to be clear about what we each are doing. There's a downtown development authority, a separate taxing body that does all the marketing for downtown. Jason, by virtue of being the downtown project manager, staffs that group, and they have the financial resources to do the branding that you see down there. And
The downtown board does not pay his salary?
no, the downtown board does pay a salary and has a written agreement with the Downtown Development Authority.
So the CRA is paying his salary?
There's a separate taxing district, but they are not paying for his time. That is through the Downtown Redevelopment CRA. Okay, that's a different group that covers all of the downtown, and you have this different district, the Downtown Authority, that overlaps that area, and their primary mission is to run the farmers market and the marketing for the downtown. So downtown CRA redevelopment does not have to undertake that part. Jason splits his time between both of those agencies in terms of his work.
So the downtown board pays 50% of his
No,
salary? No? I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
Downtown Redevelopment Board, the CRA, pays his whatever time he works for downtown, regardless of if he's doing the marketing or whatever he happens to be doing. But he accounts for that time.
All right.
That's how it works.
So, Reed, what you're saying is that there's a separate taxing district that pays for all this marketing and such. That
And you have people who are actually doing a lot of the work that's on the website, and there's a consulting agency already that is providing support and assistance under a contract every month.
Does that mean money?
To do that work.
Support and assistance, money?
Yeah, money. And that money is coming from the Downtown Development Authority, an independent taxing body.
So we're not comparing apples to apples
No,
here when we're...
You're not at all. And now, and keep in mind, when we talk about the beach side, you've got different groups there. You've got the CVB, there's other taxing authorities related to the county that are trying to market the tourism, the hotels, the ocean center. So there's some other things to tie into. It's a little bit different. And then you have, you've got a lot of different places. We'd have to spend a lot more time than we have right now, or I don't think we're going to spend much more time here, other than to say that offline I can talk to you more about how all those agencies work.
But what you're saying is that we don't really have the funds to pay for that.
Yeah, that we're not.
I finally understand it then.
Yeah, and I primarily, right now our mission is product development, to create the destination that we can market, and to the extent that we can market some of the places we've already improved, like the boardwalk and the pier, and make those things happen, we're going to do that. But it's not a large area.
Okay, well, from what Suzanne was saying, if we read the draft that we had in front of us, that's one of the topics that was in there, that we've got too many ad agencies going in too many different directions, and we need to kind of combine the efforts, which is a monumental task, because nobody wants to give up any of their power. But that's the biggest thing. And what Reed's saying is, we build the infrastructure, then the business comes in, and then that should generate, the revenues. I read those articles about the bed tax, and I'd be interested to see how those bed taxes are being brought in, because the bed tax might be going up, but I don't think it's because of occupancy on the beach side. So I'd be interested to see how that pie's cut up. If the bed tax is has been raised, is it because of room rates have gone up? We've lost somewhere between almost close to since 2004, maybe 40% of our hotel rooms on the beach side due to attrition, hurricanes. we shouldn't see an empty hotel room on A1A, especially during the events. We should drive down A1A and see no vacancy after no vacancy. And I drive down A1A every single day from Ormond Beach all the way to my shop, and very rarely do I see a no vacancy sign. So I'd be interested to see how that money's coming in. I don't know if that's something you could get for us and see, and, you know, because we talk about hotel rooms and quality hotel rooms and things like that. So, I don't know, just an observation. And welcome to the board. You guys are gonna have fun.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'll just throw out
Dino.
one. If we're going to throw out ideas out there, there's one that I've been thinking about. I mean, there was a time where I was talking with the city manager, and he was talking about, and we've seen this where they talked about a second pier next to the Main Street pier to try to put amusement rides and what have you. Then one of the consultants said that it wouldn't be feasible to go out into the water or what have you with the second pier. Now that the city owns Breakers Park, a concept that I thought of is, and the reason I'm bringing out this will take years to go through the state and everything, but if the city could come up with an idea of like building let's say a deck in front, over the sand dunes, in front of the Breakers Park, that doesn't have to extend out into the water or anything like that. It's like something at the base of the pier that would be wide enough and long enough, you know, to where you would be able to, because one day in the future, I'm sure something's going to happen with the boardwalk site. I would hate to lose all the amusement rides that are there. And I would love to see, to be able to like move them if we had to, you know, and if we created a deck in front of the Breakers Park, and which obviously the city would have the riparian rights, so it wouldn't be obstructing anybody's view but the public view. And the city could also benefit by renting the spots out to whatever amusement owner. And I actually spoke with Stan and showed him the property, and he actually liked the idea for something in the future, you know, because obviously he's not going to want to, he's got a big investment there, and once that hotel happens, you know, if it happens, you know, what's going to happen to all the rides that he bought, you know? I mean, he's right now ready to build a roller coaster over there, and from what I heard, it should be up within a couple months, you know? I heard that, you know, from one of the guys. I know you heard something differently, but anyways, you know, but the concept, I don't know how we get from A to B, but it always starts off with the concept. I'm throwing it out, and then whether we decide to move on it or not, it's up to the board. It's, you know, that's how we decided to get the amusement right on the pier, by just throwing out an idea out there, and it happens, you know. The fact of the matter is, building a deck in front of the Breakers Park would take well over a year of planning and what have you, going through the state, environmentalists and what have you. But in the end, you know, there's an advantage of doing something like that there.
In other words, you're talking about just building a wooden decking system out over the dunes and
Yeah.
out part of the beach area.
Specifically
to
for,
enhance the-
specifically for amusement rides. I don't, you know, no buildings, no shops, nothing that's going to offend anybody with any businesses in that area. Amusement rides, something that's going to be an attraction for everybody.
Interesting.
You know, I mean, look at Wildwood, New Jersey. Well, look at what it used to be. It had, you know, go-karts. It had, you know, a Ferris wheel, all sorts of rides and what have you, out on the water. And obviously, the advantage of doing a deck versus going out into the water with a pier is that you don't have the threat of the waves and what have you knocking it. I mean, because we're basically just talking about a deck. We're not talking about going all the way into the water. You know, the pilings don't have to be. It's still, but the pilings won't have to be as severe as, you know, supporting something that's constantly taking the beating of the waves. You know.
What about the sea turtles and the take?
Yeah, I know. Like I said, it will take a while to go through the state and what have you. But I mean, but you also make the argument with the sea turtles that it would protect any nesting that happens underneath. You know,
Do you know what people go through to get steps down?
Yeah.
Steps down onto the dunes.
Like I said, it would take a lot. Okay, I mean, I know what I'm. But if it could happen, I mean, you know, has been development out there. The city does own the right to build and Teresa, you know this, the city does own the right to build an adjacent pier, you know, next to the Main Street Pier, correct?
I think they can apply for it.
Was that?
Yeah, I think they can apply for it.
Yeah, and so what I'm saying, not do the whole pier, just the deck. at
Short
the
pier.
beginning. A short, you know, a base, you know?
Very interesting idea. Anyone else? No? Thank you all very much. Welcome aboard, all the new members. Look forward to working with you all. We stand adjourned. Not on the list.
Well, you know, I was wondering what they used to, what I found. Last week,